Hey everybody, happy Thursday. This is a monster video today. And not because the Bitcoin conference is happening, but there's so much other news that's completely mind-blowing. We'll be looking at imagine one of the interesting things, a little analogy today. Imagine owning a chocolate factory and then going out to stores and buying chocolate. Well, we have one of those situations. We got pension funds jumping in. We got a crazy price target from VanEck, which I'm going to analyze a little bit for you. We have a radical move in one of our indicators. We are going to analyze all of the latest miner production, miner HODL, percentage of market cap, because there's a lot there. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on at the Bitcoin conference and ton more. Let's go. Oh, we'll look at something very rare for me, a dominance chart too. Spartian, thank you for coming. Let's jump in. Market cap is lower. It's 2.4 trillion yesterday. It's 2.32 trillion today. So things have gone down. We'll break down exactly which ones are pooping the bed and which ones are not. Fear and greed was 69 yesterday. Now it's 68 today. Let's jump in. This video is called $52 million price target, but there's a lot more to it, including indicators and charts and golden crosses. And this is going to be like 5 videos worth of content in 20 minutes. So buckle in, and none of this is financial advice. Shout out to everybody on Patreon too. You, Patreon fam here. Thank you, Crypto Surgeon. Let's see what you're going to be excising this bull run. I'll be watching. Thank you for being part of the team. Now let's get into the Bitcoin news. A lot of stuff going on. Some people said it's a quiet news day. No, first of all, massive tech sell-off. Covered it yesterday in Oppty, but here you can see like NASDAQ fell 3.6%. Worst day in 2 years, over 2 years. S&P down 2.3%. Bitcoin fell over 3%, and Ethereum fell over 8%. Took a big dump. The ETFs were not able to keep that one alive for now. We'll see what happens. But that's the bad news. There's some good stuff too. This is big. We saw, I think it was the state of Wisconsin, jumped in the 13F filings in Q1. Well, just in, Mayor Stephen Fulop announces Jersey City Pension Fund is updating paperwork with the SEC to allocate a portion of their pension fund, about 2%, to Bitcoin. All right. It's always, slowly, then suddenly. Classic example of that. But for a second, every time I see things like this, I want to refresh myself and refresh you all about how big pensions are. People don't understand. They are monstrous. Monstrous. Let's have a quick minute on the pensions. The size of global pension funds today, globally, $76.3 trillion. Okay? The expectation is for it to go to nearly 120 trillion in 5 years, which is massive. Some of the biggest ones are things like CalPERS and, Japanese pension funds, Norwegian sovereign funds. They are very, 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 very big. It's good to see the fastest growing pension funds as well are in Australia and New Zealand. Largest market is Japan and North America. So there we are. But I just want to focus on this. $76.3 trillion is nearly 60 times the Bitcoin market cap. All right? 60 times. If they just allocate a tiny bit, it would blow Bitcoin to the moon. The question is, when will that game theory kick in? The other thing that's kind of interesting is this. The amount of growth of pension funds, 9.43% compound annual growth rate, or 57% over 5 years. That is bonkers. Hey, Jimmy, good to see you, buddy. Just imagine. Everything is going to grow, but the pension funds have to grow. Okay? I always say, if you're not growing your bags at 14%, you're not treading water, you're drowning. 9.43% growth in pension funds, considering the aging population, including myself, aging, it's not going to cut it. Therefore, they need to allocate to the apex predator that is Bitcoin. And not enough people are talking about that, but there's just some pension numbers. Now, in some Russian news, Russian parliament plans to legalize Bitcoin mining and crypto payments. Ta-da! Also, curb illegal activity, attract investments, create jobs, etc. This is a big move for Russia. And to be honest, I think the Ruskies on the ground have been using Bitcoin anyway because you can't stop it. Also, there is a lot of Bitcoin mining happening in Russia, despite the fact that it's banned. That's just what happens. You got some access to some free electricity, a couple of rigs, plug them in. Nobody knows the better. So anyway, another domino falls here. Good. And RFK from the Bitcoin conference, he is a candidate for president. This is interesting. I would like to have the federal government begin to buy Bitcoin and over my term in office ultimately have an equivalent amount of Bitcoin that we have gold. He must have seen my Treasury video about 10 days ago where I compared two different scenarios. One was matching the existing HODL to gold, and the second was to double the amount of Chinese gold that they have as treasuries. A reminder of this with just the very conservative IA multiplier that would take the Bitcoin price, if it was to happen, to about $540,000. Again, just an allocation by the US government to double the percentage that China has in terms of gold as a reserve asset. But enough of that. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to get elected. So it's all speculation. But this was some heavy-duty speculation from the team at VanEck. And they know their stuff. They did some pretty good models. And they came out with a very ambitious price projection for Bitcoin. Obviously, one of them is the headline is 2.9 million 2050 base case scenario. But the bull case is 52.4 million per coin. And that's based on things like global adoption, medium of exchange, trade integration. I always talk about, trading oil and Bitcoin, the Bitcoin dollar, the Bitcoin barrel, or the petro Bitcoin. I can't remember what I used to call it. Also, a whole bunch of other stuff. But could it be? Could this happen? There's a few things when we break down the actual. This is their price prediction chart. I want to show you a couple of things that I think I've got a problem with. One, your price per Bitcoin base case is $2.9 million. And by the way, out to 2050, that's not very much because the dollar will debase a truckload by then. I estimate, if you have the simple way to put it, conservatively, $1 million today will be worth about $400,000 in purchasing power in 10 years. You go out 25 years, $1 million is valued at like 100 grand, 150 grand. So it's not going to get you very far, maybe 200 grand, who knows? But that is their target, say 3 million. Their bear case is 130,000. Well, if that's the case, let's all get out of Bitcoin now and get something else. And the bull case, $52.4 million. But there's a couple of things here. The total trade in Bitcoin is the same. Percentage of Bitcoin in circulation is different. This is interesting, their angle. The expected case means 85% of Bitcoin is out of circulation, only 15% is available. The bear case is 33% is out of circulation. And the super bull case is 99% is out of circulation. But if that's the case, then it really doesn't have much use if people don't have any in circulation. And we'll see. But the couple of problems that I have with this model, so don't get too excited, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't want the team at VanEck to be upset with me, but these are things that I see. First of all, oversimplification. I think the analysis assumes things like trade, constant international trade growth rates at 2%, GDP growth rates at 3% over a span of 25, 30 years is a little bit unrealistic. Economic conditions, just like Bitcoin, are very, very volatile and will change. Also, adoption rates. The scenario assumes very specific percentage of adoption for international trade. I think it was 10% of the base case, 20% of the bull case. Also, the bull scenario predicts that crazy number, from 52.4 million all the way down to 130,000 or whatever. It just seems oversimplified. Also, the range between bear and bull is ridiculous. It's like saying, well, the answer will be somewhere between $1 and $100 billion. It doesn't really help. The time frame will also, I always say, keep your tap dancing shoes on. We don't know if the planet's going to exist in 10 years. We do know technology is changing very fast. And I think technology will interrupt and disrupt everything. So if you're talking 25 years plus, it's simply too long a time frame. They had no advanced forecasting techniques, and they had no focus on debasement. Like I said at the beginning, $1 million today will not have a lot of purchasing power in 10 years or 25 years. And that needs to be taken into account. But anyway, I thank them for their work. Let's talk about some other news. I did tell you there's a lot to unpack today. This is Marathon Mining. This is the owning a chocolate factory and going to the store and buying more chocolate. Marathon has purchased $100 million worth of Bitcoin, taking its balance sheet holdings to over 20,000 Bitcoin. And they intend to adopt a full HODL approach to its Bitcoin treasury policy, retaining all mined Bitcoin and periodically making additional purchases. That was bonkers. Another view of this is all over the place. Is from the CEO of the firm, Fred Thiel. Marathon is proud to announce strengthen our strategy of holding Bitcoin, kind of a la Michael Saylor. Again, despite mining a truckload, they're buying it too. Interesting and very good. We like this type of thing. Let's look at some minor model updates. Let's look at production. Let's look at HODL per miner. And let's look at HODL as a percentage of market cap. These are three things that I did promise you some minor stuff this week. This is just the beginning, hopefully. But this is the first part, the miner model update. The Bitcoin held by miners, Marathon is now north of 20,000. Number 2 is Riot, 9,300. Number 3 is Hut, 9,100. Number 4 is CleanSpark, about 6,600. And then Hive, 2,500. Cypher, 2,200. And Bitfarms, 905. This is incredible. All right. If the biggest miner on the planet is not selling their Bitcoin and they're stacking it, that has a huge impact on supply. I always talk about 450 daily issuance. These guys all start hodling. That's gone. Then we're definitely going to get into supply crunch territory. Not sure when, but let's look at some more numbers. This is the Bitcoin HODL as a percentage of market cap. So I multiplied Bitcoin's price today by the amount they HODL and compared that to the market cap in real time. Model does it for me, thank goodness. And the number one player in terms of as a percentage of HODL would be DMGI. Number 2 is Hut. Number 3 is Hive. And Marathon, even though they have over 20,000 Bitcoin, it's only 22.24% of their market cap. Riot about 19%. CleanSpark about 11%. So that's a very interesting way to look at it. Hut and DMG are the two biggest players with over 30% of their market cap represented by Bitcoin, which could actually make them very attractive as an acquisition target as we go forward. Hope everything's still working here. Hearing some noise in the background. Now, let's look at one other statistic as well. Let's look at how much they are mining each per month. Remember, some of these guys were doing 900 a month in production, but then the halving happened and that got slashed. So Marathon have a lot of hash and they're pulling in now 551 Bitcoin a month. So it'll take them a long time to get to another 20,000 Bitcoin. Thank you, Yunka, for coming. CleanSpark are mining 445. Core Scientific are mining only 430, despite having a lot more hash. That's why we look very carefully at the efficiency of the miners. Riot, 255 a month. Iris, 233 a month. Bitfarms, 189 a month, etc. This is getting a little more competitive right now because they're not pulling in that 900 Bitcoin. And they had a bonkers month, April, May, when they were still making a lot of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin price was high. Now it's getting much more competitive. So let's see where all this goes as we go forward. But well done to Marathon. Again, yet between the New Jersey pension fund, Wisconsin pension fund growth, all the pension funds coming, buying more and more. Miners now stacking more and more. ETFs buying more and more. I know we have the Bangkok selling, we have the German selling, we might have the US government a little bit of selling. That's all going to dry up soon. So the question was posed by some fellow on Twitter, PS poll, is HODL and buy more no matter the tankage, is what I call the heading here, is 89, this is a poll that was put up, 89% of the 22,000 Bitcoin hodlers who participated in the poll claimed they wouldn't sell their Bitcoin even if the price collapsed to 15,000, 80% below its March high. Now that's serious time in hands. But what would you guys do if the price dropped another 80% down to 3,000? 90% would hodl and buy more. So again, this is a significant poll. It's a lot of people. And this is why I said I wasn't too concerned about the amount GOC selling. Those OGs have been in it for 10 years. They know Bitcoin better than anybody else. Even if the price fell to 3,000, 90% would hold. So, and that is a serious pull because so many took it. And that was made by a gold bug as well. So and you'd think they'd have a heavy anti-Bitcoin audience, but no, not the case. Thank you, Zeno and Brendan. So much fun stuff. And it's only Thursday. By the way, tomorrow's a big day. We'll get more back to that later. Now, another good news before we get into the charts. The most secure email on the planet, called Proton Mail, launches a self-custody Bitcoin wallet. So now we've got the integration of email and wallets and security and privacy all in one. So shout out to Proton. And I also heard rumors they're adding capabilities for another wallet too, which could be very interesting. Now let's get into the charts. Bitcoin chart time. Some very interesting ones today. We had a historical moment. Spike this morning. Shout out to the team in Discord that alerted me to it. Our top and bottom indicator for Bitcoin spiked to orange for the first time in nearly 3 years, everybody. This is the third last stage. So we have that kind of blue, then light blue, then that lime green, then the yellow, then the orange, then the dark orange, and then the red. Red means get the hell out. Now, there are some things that are a little bit different this time around. We have long-term holder movements of wallets, the Mt. Gox stuff. That has an impact on some of the on-chain data as well. And we have some other things that are different, like the ETF sucking in a lot of the supply. And now we have the miners. They've capitulated. Those that were going to sell what they were going to sell have sold. Now the miner selling has also stopped. So I'm going to break down tomorrow all of the 21 metrics that go into this, hopefully if I can, and try identify the root of this spike. But typically what this means, at least what it's designed to tell us, is when we get to this orange level, you slow down your purchases. You stack. The cooler the color, the more you stack. As the color begins to get hotter, you start slowing down. And then hotter again, you start hedging, exiting, whatever, taking profits. That's how this thing is supposed to work. So big historic spike that just happened today. Wanted to share it with you. But there's more. We have dominance almost at a 3.3-year high, highest since April 2021. This thing keeps going up because a lot of people are realizing that 99% of cryptos are poop coins. And they're getting it now, slowly but surely, and they're beginning to offload. But just in case you think I'm a maxi, I'm not. I'm an alpha maxi. There's other dominances rising too. Solana dominance is at an all-time high as well. So we're beginning to see the winners take most and the winners do best. Bitcoin, Solana. We'll see. At least that's what the dominance charts tell us. Now, this is also interesting. We talk about the change in on-chain. Long-term holders, ever since the 68K level, the supply of long-term holders increased by 126,000 Bitcoin. So these long-term OGs have bought the dip. That's about $8 billion worth, I think. And everything that the long-term holder wanted to sell was sold between 74,000 and 70,000. What they do is they sell at the top and then they get back in when the price gets cheap. That's what they did. And they stacked 126,000 Bitcoin. This is not the ETFs, by the way. Crazy. So let's look at this other cool chart as well. Shout out to Titan of Crypto. This is the Bitcoin Golden Cross looming. Now, we have never, ever, ever in the history of Bitcoin ever seen a Golden Cross involving the 100-day moving average and the 200-day moving average in its nearly 15-year history. And it's about to happen. Now, this could lead to the most impulsive bull run yet. I just showed you data that the long-term holders and the OGs are not going to sell. I showed you data that the miners are stacking. I showed you data that the pension funds are coming in. We've flushed Germany. Shout out to everybody in Germany. Not flushed Germany, but German government in Saxony flushed their Bitcoin bag. US government might sell a little bit, but everything else is maybe a little bit of Gox lifestyle chips, but the rest is looking extremely bullish. So from that perspective, the combination of all those tailwinds with this TA could be something interesting. So I spent a lot of time analyzing the impact of golden crosses on the 50-day and 200-day, and I dug up some of my history. I didn't put together a slide, but I have a note here on my little notepad. Bitcoin has gained, typically, after a golden cross, which is a 50, 200-day golden cross, 5% in the following 7 days, and 9.6% in the following 30 days, and 170% in the following year. All right? Big numbers. 5%, 10%, 170% in 1 week, 30-day, and 1 year timeframes. The question is, and I've got no history on analyzing 100-day, 200-day crossover. I'll try to dig into the impact of that on stocks, at least high-tech volatile stocks, to see if I can find a pattern. But I have not been able to yet. But this could be very, very interesting as well. We'll see. History will be made. A 1 in 15-year event. So buckle in, everybody. Now, we also have news as well as an event. The Bitcoin conference is happening. There could be a big talk about something, reserve assets, that could ignite a mini rally as well. We shall see. It might just be a nothing burger. In the meantime as well, there is a leveraged long hunting opportunity. So we could get a wick down. So if you are 3x, 5x, 10x, 100x leverage long on Bitcoin, be very careful because it's looking very juicy to the market makers to come and grab your stuff. So watch out for that. Bitcoin proxy playlist will be here after the video, and at the end of the video, let's talk about the black hole, the ETFs. By the way, I did ask the audience who wanted me to include ETH ETF material in the Bitcoin video. 92% of you said no. So I'm not going to do it. I do what the audience wants. 8% of you said yes, but 92% was pretty overwhelming. Let's look at day 135 raw numbers. You can see we had a positive day, 44.5 million, and the day before that was minus 76. All in all, messy, but still over 3 billion in 13 days, which is big. Big amount of money. Now, we had that huge spike from BlackRock, the 5th biggest day ever, and now they cooled down a little bit, so we don't know what's going on there. And Fidelity cooled down a lot as well, and Grayscale continues to bleed out. Back to positive, though. We had one negative day after a series of 12 positive days, one negative, back to positive, which is good. And that happens a lot. We've had one single solitary negative day when just not everybody's buying and Grayscale's dumping. And that can bring us down. Remember, if there was no Grayscale, there'd only be like one negative day in the history of all of these ETFs, which is bonkers to think about. Now, yesterday, 681 Bitcoin were taken from the system. That is 1.5x the daily issuance. And remember, Marathon bought a ton as well. So well done to Marathon. That's the story for today. Hope you liked it. It'll be exciting to watch what happens with Bitcoin over this conference. Sometimes things are buy the rumor, sell the news, and things fizzle out. But there could be a big surprise too. Either way, the TA, the macro, the news is shaping up, except the tech sell-off is still there, but that will soon be at an end as well. Thank you all for coming. Have a good Thursday. I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.